Hey guys, in this video I'll show you a subclass tank build for dungeons. This build focuses mainly on improving your group members' survivability, while also providing decent offensive buffs. Thanks to combining Warden's Winter's Embrace and Arcanist's Soldier of the Apocrypha skill lines, it provides both major and minor resolve for the entire group. Saxhleel's champion allows you to provide major force to your group, even with a defensive ultimate, like Replenishing Barrier. Earthen Heart provides your group with Minor Brutality, which will increase their DPS by a decent amount, and also greatly improves your sustain, with passives like Helping Hands and Battle Roar. And this build synergizes well with Battle Roar, due to having lots of ultimate, from Replenishing Barrier and Trample with the Heroism script. You'll be able to find logs from Veteran Hard Mode Red Pearl Bastion and Veteran Hard Mode Arden Root Enclave runs in the video description and on the website guide. Speaking of which, the build is also on my website, so if you prefer written guides over YouTube videos, you can read it there instead. The link will be in the description. Let's start off with subclassing. As I said in the intro, this build uses Dragonknight's Earthen Heart, Warden's Winter's Embrace, and Arcanist's Soldier of the Apocrypha. This build doesn't use any class set or class script, so the base class can be either Dragonknight, Warden, or Arcanist. Moving on to skills. This is the base setup that will work for most situations, and which should be your starting point when making situational setups. First we have Shield Throw, with the Taunt, Sage's Remedy, and Maim combination on it. It's a ranged taunt which will heal you and apply the major Maim debuff for 10 seconds, which decreases enemies' damage down by 10%. Next we have Trample, with the Magic, Assassin's Misery, and Heroism combination on it. It's a 1.5 second channel that will grant you major Heroism for 10 seconds, which translates to roughly 20 ultimate per cast. Next, Ignis Shield, a damage shield for yourself and your teammates, that also briefly grants you major Mending, which increases your healing by 16%. It's crucial for proccing the Mundus Blessing passive, which grants your group Minor Brutality, which increases weapon damage by 10%. The Mundus Blessing also generates ultimate. Ignis Shield will also proc the Helping Hands passive, which restores 1120 stamina, which allows you to trade Magicka for stamina by repeatedly casting Ignis Shield. Next we have Soul Burst, with the Damage Shield, Anchorage's Potency, and Courage combination on it. It's a damage shield for yourself and your teammates that consumes a Soul Gem to grant 3 ultimate to you and your teammates, up to once every 5 seconds. It also grants everyone Minor Courage for 20 seconds, increasing weapon and spell damage by 215. Next we have Polar Wind, a very strong direct heal that also heals an ally, and puts a 10-second heal over time on yourself. Next, Gibbering Shelter, an emergency ultimate that puts a massive damage shield on you and periodically applies damage shields to your allies when you take damage. Having it slotted also passively grants 81 stamina and magical recoveries from Wellspring of the Abyss. Next we have Expansive Frostcloak, a source of crucial major resolve buff for your entire group, which increases armor by 5948, which is roughly 12% damage mitigation. Next we have Wield Soul, with the Pull, Druid Resurgence, and Cowardice combination on it. It's a chain ability for stacking smaller adds that also restores 600 stamina. It should also be used on unchainable enemies to apply the major Cowardice debuff, which reduces enemies' weapon and spell damage by 430. Next we have Elemental Susceptibility, a free ability that applies the crucial major breach debuff, which reduces enemies' armor by 5948 and applies Burning, Concussed, and Shield stats effects every 7.5 seconds. Concussed applies minor vulnerability for 4 seconds, which increases enemies' damage taken by 5%, and can trigger off balance when paired with lightning elemental blockade from your healer. Chilled applies minor maim for 4 seconds, which reduces enemies' damage done by 5%, and if you were holding an ice staff the moment Chilled procced, it will also apply minor brittle for 4 seconds, which increases enemies' critical damage taken by 10%. Next up we have Elemental Blockade. This ability will constantly apply the enchant of your backbar weapon, which in our case will be Crusher. It will also apply minor breach debuff to enemies who are chilled, which reduces enemies' armor by 2974, and they will always be chilled thanks to Elemental Susceptibility. It will also grant projectile-only damage shields to you and your teammates. Next we have Runegard of Still Waters, an ability that places a delayed heal on you which triggers when you take damage below 50% HP. It also grants minor resolve to you and allies around you, which increases armor by 2974. It also grants you minor protection, which is removed when the heal effect procs. It also snares enemies around you when cast. And lastly, we have the Replenishing Barrier, an ultimate that grants you and your allies a massive shield, and restores 4000 Magicka and 16 ultimate in total when all shields dissolve. Since it's an ultimate that generates ultimate, It synergizes well with item sets based around ultimate, like Saxhleel or War Machine. So that was the base setup, but now I'm gonna show you a bunch of situational skills, which you can use to tailor this base setup to specific fights. Trample is the first skill that has to go when you need to slot something situational, unless the situational skill specifically says that it's replacing something else. Stone Giant is a replacement for Ignis Shield in easier fights. Just like Ignis Shield, it will proc Minor Brutality with Mountain's Blessing. It provides around 4% damage increase when at full stacks. Inner Rage is a replacement for Shield Throw for easier fights. You're giving up the 10% damage reduction and the heal from Shield Throw, but you're providing an extremely strong synergy for your group. Ulf's Contingency, with the Damage Shield, Gladiator's Tenacity, and Intellect and Endurance combination on it, is a replacement for Soul Burst in more difficult fights. The damage shield it provides is bigger, costs less, and grants 8% damage reduction and a sustain buff. However, it doesn't provide ultimate nor minor courage. Next we have Revealing Flare, slotted for more difficult fights, where you need more damage mitigation. It's a skill that passively grants major protection, reducing your damage taken by 10%. It will also trigger the Magicite passive, which increases magic recovery by 10%. Next we have Immovable, use it in fights where you need lots of block mitigation or CC immunity. Next, Crushing Shock, use it in fights where you need to interrupt an enemy who's standing far away from you. Next, Imperious Rune Ward, use it in fights with lots of damage over time. Next, Shimmering Shield, use it in fights with dangerous projectiles. Next, Razor Caltrops, a source of AoE major breach for trash fights or boss fights of lots of ads. Next, Power Bash, a skill for proccing the Void Bash item set, if you're switching to that in trash packs. Next, Pulsar, a skill that combined with Charged Ice Staff provides almost guaranteed AoE shield procs. Use it in trash packs. And lastly, we have Aggressive Horn, alternative for Replenishing Barrier when not using Saxhleel's champion, if you want to continue providing major force at the cost of providing less survivability to your group. Now let me show you a bunch of examples of how your final setup could look after you apply these situational skills to your base setup. This is a setup of lots of damage mitigation, for bosses that hit very hard. Revealing Flare replaces Trample, because it provides 10% passive damage mitigation. Ulf's Contingency replaces Soul Burst, because it provides 8% damage mitigation and improves sustain. This is a setup specialized for trash packs. Inner Rage replaces Shield Throw, because the Major Mime isn't as crucial in trash packs. Razor Caltrops replaces Trample, to provide AoE Major Breach. Power Bash replaces Soul Burst, to trigger the Void Bash item set. And Pulsar replaces Elemental Susceptibility, to provide AoE Minor Brittle and Minor Breach. And now I'm gonna show you a few setups I've used against specific bosses. This is a setup I've used when fighting Corruption of Stone in the Arden Root Enclave dungeon. Crushing Shock replaces Wield Soul, because you need to interrupt enemies from far away. And this is a setup I've used when fighting Archdruid Devrick in the Arden Root Enclave dungeon. Immovable replaces Trample, because the block mitigation will help you survive Devrick's Lightning Breath. Ulf's Contingency replaces Soul Burst, because in Execute phase, your allies will take a lot of damage from the Lightning Storm, and the 8% damage reduction from Ulf's Contingency will be very helpful. Now as for passives, the only passive you specifically have to skip is Trifocus. I am now very quickly going through all of the passives you should get on the screen. You can either pause the video or look up this list on the website guide. Now moving on to gear. This is a base setup that will work for most situations and which should be your starting point when making situational setups. So Saxhleel's Champion, Bagbard War Machine, Archdruid Devrick as your monster set, and One Piece Trainee combined with One Piece Druid's Braid on the front bar. There are a few situational sets which can be better than the setup from the table in specific situations. Vestments of Olorim is a replacement for War Machine when playing without a healer. Void Bash is the best front bar set for trash packs, though keep in mind that switching gear for trash packs isn't worth it unless you're a PC player using gear swap add-ons. Turning Tide is another good set for trash packs, because you won't be using ultimate on those. Same thing with Powerful Assault, it's a good set for trash packs, because you won't be using ultimate there, and won't be proccing War Machine. Keep in mind that you have to move your Caltrops to Backbar to proc Powerful Assault. Spolder of Ruin is a good set for trash packs, because Archdruid Devrick is buggy and has trouble hitting moving targets. Pair it with One Piece Magma Incarnate. Now this is a list of alternative gear that can also be used and might be easier to obtain. It basically lists all useful gear even sets that are already in the gear table, and situational tab. Now to talk a bit more about traits. Sturdy and Divines are both very good options. Which one is better depends on a specific encounter. Depending on your race and many other aspects, you might be over the armor cap, in which case you can change reinforced pieces to Sturdy or Divines. As for Harmony and Infused on Jewelry, Harmony is stronger whenever you have at least 2 different synergies available to you, which means that Harmony will be better in the vast majority of situations, but Infused can be better when playing with randoms, or if the specific encounter makes it really difficult for your teammates to provide you synergies. And Swift is extremely useful for trash packs. As for weapon traits, Charged is an option for the Backbar Ice Staff for trash packs. It will cause Pulsar to be almost guaranteed to proc Chill stats effect. Infused is another option for the front bar one-handed weapon, when playing with a healer. You can then combine it with the Weakening enchant to reduce enemies' damage done. Now as for enchants. On the body, Tri-stat enchants are very expensive, so you can use a mix of health, stamina and magicka enchants, before you can afford them. And as for weapons, as I said before, Weakening is an option for the front bar one-handed weapon, when combined with the Infused trait. And one more additional tip, you can double bar War Machine, if you want to be able to provide Major Slayer, also with your front bar ultimate. Now let me show you a few examples of final setups you could end up with, after applying situational rules to the base setup. This is a beginner setup, made with only crafted gear. As I said before, you can use a mix of health, stamina and magicka enchants instead of Tri-stat, because Tri-stat enchants are very expensive, and this is temporary gear that you'll outgrow very fast. Now this is an example of a setup if you only have access to dungeon gear. Now this is an example of a trash setup you can quickly switch to if you're a PC player using Gears of Balance. Archdruid Devrik changes to Spaulders of Ruin, because Archdruid Devrik is extremely buggy and has issues hitting moving targets. Saxhleel's Champion changes to Turning Tide, because you don't want to spend your ultimate in trash. War Machine changes to Powerful Assault, again because you don't want to spend your ultimate in trash, and because you can proc it with Razor Caltrops. If you're playing with a healer, keep using Vestments of Olorim. Void Bash is extremely good for stacking enemies in dungeon trash packs. Backbar Ice Staff trait changes to Charged, so that Pulsar becomes almost guaranteed to proc Chill stats effect. And Jewelry traits change to Swift, as movement speed is extremely useful while running through trash packs. Now moving on to champion points. In the default setup, in the blue tree, you'll want to use Ironclad, which grants 6% direct damage reduction, Duelist Rebuff, which grants 6% single target damage reduction, Focus Mending, which increases your single target healing by 10%, and Bulwark, which increases your armor by 1900. If you run North, you can replace Bulwark with Enduring Resolve. In the red tree, you want to use Boundless Vitality, which increases your max health by 1400, Shieldmaster, which grants a 10% cost reduction for damage shields, Bastion, which increases the strength of your damage shields by 15%, and Bracing Anchor, which grants 20% block mitigation, but also a 16% movement speed penalty. If you want to switch your CP for trash packs, the blue tree stays the same, but in the red tree, you'll want to use once again Boundless Vitality, but then also Rejuvenation, which grants 90 of all recoveries, Sustained by Suffering, which grants 150 of all recoveries while you're debuffed, and Celerity, which grants 10% movement speed. But the best champion point setup can be very situational, so now I will list all useful CPs for you to choose from. In the blue tree, you have 6 options. The 4 mitigation CPs, Bulwark, which increases your armor, and Focus Mending, which increases your healing. In the red tree, we have way more options. Boundless Vitality increases your max health by 1400. It's great for your survivability, if a fight does not have max HP based damage. Fortified increases your armor by 1731. It can help you reach the armor cap, if you're missing it in other parts of the build. Rejuvenation increases your health, stamina and magicka recovery by 90. It's a decent boost to sustain when you have some slots left. Sustained by Suffering increases your health, stamina and magicka recoveries by 150, while you have a debuff on yourself. It's a straight up stronger rejuvenation that only works in some fights, but there's a decent amount of fights where you'll have a constant debuff on yourself. Celerity increases your movement speed by 10%. It's great for fights where you have to constantly move around. It can also be used to offset Bracing Anchor's movement speed penalty. Bastion increases the strength of your damage shields by 15%. It will boost your Ignis Shield, Replenishing Barrier, Wolf's Contingency, and Soul Burst. It's especially good in fights with lots of dots. Shieldmaster decreases cost of your damage used by 10%. It will reduce the magicka cost of your Igneous Shield, Usis Contingency, and Soul Burst by a decent amount. It will also reduce the ultimate cost of Replenishing Barrier. Bracing Anchor increases your block mitigation by 20% and reduces your movement speed by 16%. It's great for fights with constant direct blockable damage. You shouldn't combine it with Immovable, as the two movement speed penalties combined will reduce your movement speed to 0, making you unable to move or even dodge roll. Wardmaster reduces your damage taken by 10% while blocking under the effect of a damage shield. It will drain your stamina by forcing you to permablock, but it can be worth it in fights with absurd incoming damage that normally isn't affected by block, such as for example Flame Herald Basse. On guard increases your block mitigation by 10% while under the effects of crowd control immunity. It will synergize with Immovable if you choose to use it, granting you even more block mitigation during that 6-second window. Arcane Alacrity reduces cost of your dodge roll by 800 while under the effect of a damage shield. Extremely niche. Expert Evasion grants you a free dodge roll every 30 seconds. Once again, extremely niche. Moving on to race. Nord is by far the best race for tanking, due to the increased armor from Rugged and ulti generation from Stalwart. You can complete any content on any race. You will just have to work slightly harder with other races, and you'll have to adjust your build and get more armor from somewhere else. Now moving on to Mundus. The best Mundus is the Arcanist, which increases your magical recovery by 310 and causes your armor pieces with the Divine trait to increase it by another 28. If you're struggling with reaching the armor cap of 33,000, then the Lady can also be a decent choice. It increases your armor by 2,744. Moving on to attributes. Majority of the times, you should put all your points into health. However, you need your max stamina to be higher than your max magicka, because the combustion synergy restores your dominant resource, and you want it to be stamina. Because of that, you might have to put some attribute points into stamina, if you have passives, such as for example the Gift of Magnus Racial, or items with bonuses, such as for example one piece bonus of Encratis' Behemoth, that increase your max magicka. Put just enough points to make your max stamina higher than your max magicka, and then put the rest into health. Now moving on to food. The best food is Orzorga's Smoked Bear Haunch. However, it's extremely expensive, so you should use Jewels of Misrule instead. It provides only slightly lower stats than Orzorga, while being significantly cheaper. As for other useful foods, we have Orzorga's Red Frofgar, which provides more max health and magical recovery, at the cost of providing no stamina recovery at all. Stamina recovery doesn't work while blocking, so it can be a decent option if you're perma-blocking. Bewitched Sugar Skulls provides maximum resources instead of recoveries. It can be decent for fights where you need to block for a very long time during a very specific period, but the pressure is non-existent outside of that specific period, so you can recuperate stamina by heavy attacking freely, like for example Roxa the Warped boss in Balsonar dungeon. The increased maximum resources will also increase the scaling of some of your healing abilities. And the last one is Candid Jester's Coin. Provides only max stamina and magical recovery. It can be decent when you want to reduce your max health during a specific phase of a fight. For example in Cloud Rest. You can eat it right as the execute phase starts, because maximum health becomes a detriment due to the Baneful Mark mechanic. Moving on to potions. Most of the time, you should use the Tri-Stat potions, which restore health, stamina, magicka, and increase all the recoveries. They will greatly improve your sustain. You can grab them by combining Columbine, Baglos, and Mountain's Flower. There are better potions, but they're extremely expensive. Heroism potions can provide 100% uptime on minor heroism buff, which generates ultimate, but they're extremely expensive because they're crafted by combining Dragonrium, Dragon's Blood, and Columbine. And that's it for this video. If you have any more questions, you can comment down below or join our Discord server Wildheart. As always, feedback will be appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel and check out my Twitch. Thanks for watching and see you next time.